I'm not AI generated, I swear.
What we're not going to do
is give you advice about it.
is give advice about it.
Or try and be like, this is the way it is.
I don't know if that's the ending. All right, should I intro us? I'm just going to start the intro.
Start the intro that'll intro us into the intro.
Because I don't know if this is actually what we'll use.
We're doing it.
But I don't feel like it needs to be. It doesn't have to be a one take.
No, and we could.
There also doesn't have to be pressure for it to be perfect.
We also could cut together an intro. An intro.
An intro. Here's what I wanted to say from the beginning.
Okay.
I wanted to say from the beginning that this is a long time coming.
Long time coming.
You've been dreaming about this for 7 years.
Yeah.
Give or take. Not this specifically.
No.
But being on camera in this kind of capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I think for myself, while this hasn't been like a 7-year dream necessarily,
right?
I, for most of my life, have wanted to be able to add my voice to a conversation.
Mm.
And that has been a really big dream, because I just am passionate about saying things, and I've got opinions, as you know.
Hey, I do know.
And I like to share them.
Mm.
So this conversation feels like, or us sitting at this table with mics feels like it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And I feel really grateful that we're here.
Me too.
I feel pumped to try to find the pocket with you. And
same.
Pumped to just explore where we go.
Yeah.
I am curious if we need to start with some introductions.
Yeah, I mean, okay, but we also could. Well, let's do it anyway. Let's do it, and then we'll decide later if we want it or not.
I like it. Who are you?
Who am I? That's the question, isn't it? Oh, let's synthesize this. I am Cadence Helser. Cadence Zion Helser, officially, on the old birth certificate.
Love it.
And
love an old birth certificate moment.
They're important.
Yep.
And I am 21 now.
Love
as
that
of 2023, if that's when whoever's watching this is watching this. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a musician. Generally would consider myself an artist, because, that's what we do here.
It is.
I work here in this building with you a lot.
Yep.
Like every day. We've made a lot of stuff, shot a lot of live music.
We have.
Made
in this building.
Yeah, in this building. Made a few really fun, like artistic, abstract, kind of crazy idea films.
Yeah.
Along with some like poetry stuff. I've shot a lot around the world, and Jonathan Melissa's son.
Yep.
So I've grown up around music and art, and it's part of my life.
And big ideas.
And big dreams, and people who dream big and then go do it.
That's right.
And get it done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's me. And yeah, this has been a long time coming. Yeah. This whole idea, this feels surreal.
Yeah.
I'm feeling the surrealness right now.
Yeah.
Listening to myself.
That's right.
Hearing you, I'm like, ooh.
It does feel surreal.
Yeah.
It was a great intro.
Thank you. How about you? Who are you?
For myself, I am Ryan Briscoe. Ryan Christopher Briscoe.
Known as RC Briscoe on the Instagram.
Known as RC Briscoe on the Instagrams for the 1,200 people that are following me.
Yeah. And the countless that have seen your page and thought,
should I follow this guy?
I don't know. There's a lot of pictures of this really pretty girl named Allie.
I am also a filmmaker.
True.
And also an artist, although that's a term that I'm more recently more recently owning. Yeah. That this is true about me. Mm-hmm. Which that's a much bigger conversation and not one for tonight. But
part 2.
I am a filmmaker and a photographer. My art looks like digital a lot of times.
Yep.
But I do film photography as well. And
man, is it good. Crispy.
Well, I thank you. And I also do a lot of physical art.
Yeah.
I grew up playing music. I don't play a lot of music anymore. But I have a deep love for music and musicians. And I do a lot of like sketching, painting. Yeah. I am on staff here with you at A Place for the Heart with the Cageless Birds. Yes, and
that's an important detail.
I'm on our art team teaching, like, as you know.
Yes.
Teaching students art.
You're a great teacher.
Thank you. And I also work in this building with you every day. This is the Art Barn. Not
the Art Barn.
Whether that detail matters or not is to be determined.
I mean, if you start following the podcast, then you'll hear us reference it a lot.
That's true.
Especially depending on how many episodes we shoot in here.
You just called this a podcast.
I did. I don't think we can cut it out. You know, it feels like a podcast. I mean, we got headphones on and a little
We're probably not going to cut it out.
No, it's starting to feel like this.
That's what we're doing. But if we cut to some B-roll, then it might not.
Or maybe there's like the uncut, like this Zack Snyder, like the ultimate cut.
That's cool.
And then there's the like topic video.
Right.
That's the like we take this and then make a like condensed video. There's like 2 versions maybe.
I like it.
It's a good possibility.
The other reason this has been a long time coming is because we got here 3 hours ago.
That's true.
And it's just hard.
It is difficult.
It's hard. We're both people that are used to being behind the camera. It's hard to sit in front of the camera.
I mean, how many years now have we been behind? I've been behind the camera 8 years now. Starting with my iPhone.
Yeah.
How about you?
I mean, if you count the stuff that I was making when I was like in high school.
Let's count it.
I've been behind the camera.
It does. It's like, how far do we go back?
I know.
Because like my parents handed me a 5D Mark II and said, shoot burst mode. And then the On the Shores cover is me just going. They're like, okay, stop. Our card's only 1 gigabyte.
Right. I mean, behind the camera for me started with like stop motion Lego movies.
Oh my God. I did those too.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
This is
crap.
We're probably going to cut this out, but
I mean, maybe, or we're going to laugh that we said we were going to cut it out.
I had a memory. The first thing that I remember saving money for as a kid was I had found in the Lego catalog the Lego, like official Lego stop motion movie making set.
Yes.
Do you remember that set? It was like, the set was a film set. And then it had this like Lego camera that had this like 12-foot long USB cable that plugged into the back of your Dell PC.
I think because my parents got me a bunch of Legos.
Yep.
I think it was like in there, or maybe my cousins had it or something. I remember finding out about it, not through the catalog, but like through the grapevine.
Yep.
Through the Lego grapevine.
It came with like movie making software.
Yep.
It was $200. And I saved up for it.
That's basically like 20 grand for a like 5-year-old.
Right. I want that red.
So like 4 Christmases.
I saved up for it. I don't remember how long, but I saved up
Ryan
for it
Briscoe,
for a long time.
Frugal with money since age 4.
Yeah. I mean, I probably was like 8 or 9.
That's awesome.
Maybe 10, but I saved up for it. And I remember the day that I had enough money for it and talking to my parents about buying it because they knew I was saving up for it. And they got on, I don't even think it was like, I think it was like getting on the internet to buy that stuff. I think it was like, they like called the Lego, like the 1-800 Lego store catalog, number.
Hi, I'm Ryan Briscoe's parents.
And I'd like to buy set number 14705. And they said, you know what they said?
What?
They said that set's been discontinued.
Oh God.
And I was devastated.
I can feel it now.
It was brutal. But luckily there's a happy ending to this story.
Okay.
My parents found the set because I was a homeschool kid, as were you. And they had all sorts of homeschool resources. And so they found...
It's like John Wick. It's like...
Right.
I have a contact.
I've got a guy for that.
I know a guy.
Right.
You need a Lego stop motion kit? I got a guy.
They found the set minus the Lego set part. So it was just the camera, the stop motion camera, and the software.
Nice.
They found all of that for way less than $200. And
the day Ryan Briscoe got introduced to the used market.
And I said,
through a guy,
this will work.
Oh.
And I plugged it in the back of my computer that I had built.
You built? Wait. Hold on.
Yeah.
You built. How old were you when you built your first computer, Ryan?
It was with the help of a friend who was an adult, and I was probably the same. I was probably like nine or 10 years old. Yeah.
Wow.
Built it. I don't even remember what.
Geeks from day one.
But that was when I started being behind the camera. So it has been, 20 years, 21 years.
Man, I forgot. I guess those count. Yeah. 20 years.
Yeah.
It's probably been like 10 or so years for me then. Cause I made some of those too.
Same thing.
Like when I was like 10, 11.
Yeah.
I remember my sister would get so annoyed. She'd be like, I just want to play with the Legos. And then I showed her the first one. She was like, this is the coolest thing ever, and stole my phone and tried to do it.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
they're awesome.
Actually, no.
It
wasn't my phone. It was our parents' phone. Yeah. Which made it really funny because they were like, are you done yet? Like,
no, I'm not. I'll be using this phone for quite a while. Oh, anyway. Awesome. There's some deep cut stories.
Deep cut.
You have anything else you want to say before we dive into
our hot topic?
Okay. Right. The deeper waters.
Here we go.
We've been talking about AI art. Otherwise known as AI imagery.
Yeah, Satan. Yeah.
Did you say Satan?
No.
Hello?
No, I was going to say, you should say it again because I said it at the same time. And
otherwise known as AI generated imagery.
Yep.
I mean, choose your term.
Some on the internet would consider it Satan.
Some would. We're not in that camp.
No.
But we do have thoughts about it.
Yes,
and
we do.
We've been talking about AI stuff
for a while. You were really passionate about it. Yep.
Well, passionate, would you say that's the right word?
Wildly intrigued and curious about what's happening.
Yeah.
Because it all dropped back last summer.
Yeah.
So we've only been riding this wave for 8 months.
The AI wave. AI art wave.
The AI art image generation.
Right.
Wave. And I only know about it because of Corridor Digital.
Yep.
Listening to the Corridor cast.
Right.
Podcast.
Right.
And Nico, one of the guys who is the founders of Corridor Digital, which is big famous internet videos. Mm-hmm. You've probably seen them. Go look them up.
I've definitely seen them.
Oh yeah. Shared.
They might have seen them.
Yeah. Shared love here.
Oh yeah.
God, when I found out
for a long time.
When we found out that we both loved Corridor, it was a stars aligning moment.
It really is. It feels like a special corner of the internet, Corridor.
It is. There's a very specific generation of filmmakers for the last 15 or so years.
Yeah.
That have I feel like are making movies because I feel like I consider it possible.
Yeah.
To make this stuff because of them.
I agree.
They kind of especially with all the behind the scenes stuff and being a 14-year-old being wait, people make this stuff?
Right.
This is possible to.
Right.
Whoa.
Here's the thing.
5D Mark II.
And this might take us. We might circle back around to this. This might
be a fun conversation.
Because here's the thing about Corridor. What they did for both of us as kids was they gave us permission to dream big dreams.
Yeah.
Because it was these guys are making films about whatever they want. If they can imagine it, they can make it.
Yep.
Which is why AI generated imagery is so fascinating.
It is the evolution. I was listening to the podcast and Jake, who's one of their other main guys, said he mentioned how it's like, oh, Corridor's always been using cutting edge technology to do things that big companies are doing with a small collective group of filmmakers that doesn't have a big budget or a big studio or big tools. Like they're using the free software online. And that's what feels exciting. I think that's the other thing. Whenever they are excited and talking about new tech, same thing with Unreal. Every time Sam
talk about Unreal Engine,
when they talk about Unreal, I'm like, oh my gosh,
Unreal Engine
is crazy.
Which, just for people who don't know,
for those who don't know,
can you give us like a 15-second
overview? Yeah. Every video game you've ever seen or played, if you're a video game person. I'm personally not a big video game person.
Yeah, me either.
Basically, let me give you 10 seconds of context. The film industry is propelled by multiple things, but in the last few years, it's really been propelled by the gaming industry because it's massive. It's like ginormous. Like, I think it's like $80 billion or something.
Huge.
It's insanely big.
Honestly, it might be bigger than that.
It's actually, I do think it is. I think that might just be the mobile gaming.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And because of that, all this crazy computer tech has been like escalated. We're talking like the GPUs in our computers and all this crazy stuff that's required to make the CG you see in big movies, which got kicked off by Pixar back in the day. Toy Story, we can do this. And then it became like, wait, could this be real time?
Yeah.
Like, could you actually play the movie that you're watching?
Right.
And the whole idea has been like, can we get to a point where you could literally like play the graphics live, like real time? Because video games, they have to be real time, right? Like, totally. Except for the cinematics of the game, like the pre-rendered scenes where you're like, oh, like you finished a level and then it's like, oh, look, now it looks really good.
Here comes the boss.
The boss. Here's the big, like, it's letterbox. It's like lens flares and you're like, oh, wow, this looks so cool. And then you go back to the normal game and you're like, oh, this is disappointing.
Right.
Well, I guess I'll fight this boss to see the next bit of the story.
So Unreal Engine is taking that.
Yeah, it's what runs most of these big games.
Yeah.
And they've been on the cutting edge. And Disney, well, kind of. The production team at Disney had this cool, let me back up. The production team at Disney heard about this thing where they were taking these big LED walls and using Unreal Engine to have like live generated scenes on the back of them.
Nice.
There's a bunch of techie stuff, why it needs to be real time. But basically, Unreal Engine is the reason. That was weird. Did you hear that?
Yeah. I think it's someone upstairs.
Oh. Unreal Engine is basically the software that makes CGI really, really fast and real time. So it's like, imagine an entire mountainscape and like all these big scenes or like a big cathedral. And instead of like what usually you have to do with the 3D program is you're in there and it's just gray blobs everywhere because it takes so much computing power from your laptop or your desktop or render farm, whatever, to actually compute the textures and the way that the light's going off things. Like there's all these super complicated programs that run that max out your computer.
Right.
So Unreal Engine is, through some voodoo magic, it's able to do all of that stuff just instantaneously. Which is completely changed. It's completely changed like what 3D looks like in movies.
Yeah.
And like what it can look like and like real, like in camera capture with these big LED walls and all this cool stuff. Like super fun to read about and watch some videos about.
Right.
But the Corridor guys have been using that to do like real time green screen where like they have a big green screen behind them.
Yeah.
And they have a camera and basically they're using Unreal Engine with the camera and the gyroscope and all this stuff to like on the camera monitor, you literally see the scene. Like you see the final image of what it's going to look like instead of just a dude on a green screen.
Yeah.
And then they can put that on a TV and the actors can see it and be like, oh, okay, we're in a dungeon and there's fire over there and there's a dragon. Okay, then we can act to that better. And so like Corridor, they've just been advancing.
Right.
They've been advancing that. That was fascinating. And then they started talking about AI.
Right.
And that I was like, what?
Right.
For two reasons. One was like, what is going to do for filmmaking?
Yep.
And then second reason, what is this going to do to the human society as we know it?
Totally. Which is something, I think maybe this is even where it's worth saying, like, we are filmmakers, but we also are
humans.
Yes. You read my mind.
I'm not AI generated, I swear. I uploaded this video myself.
No, we are like filmmakers, but we also are like passionate about the human experience.
Yes.
And I think
we work in human development.
Right.
That's the other thing that we do.
Right. Like that. And I think that that's why I feel like our voice matters.
Yeah. I mean,
conversation.
We a lot of our lives is around like emotional health and human development and like business, like business culture and creative culture and collaboration and conflict resolution, like all that juicy stuff that Brene Brown's been talking about.
Yeah,
we are like
wholeness
in
would be the
wholeness
would be the word that I would use for that.
And obviously, we're doing it in a faith-based, like with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
But it is also just like in general, like this new wave, of like,
how do we live
finding healing
well as humans?
Which it is Jesus at the end of the day. Like, can't really get away from it. Like, that's what he does.
And so I think that's where I'm like, okay, AI is cool from a technical thing. From a technical perspective, it's really interesting, and that's where we're both curious, like people. We just, if there's new tech, we want to know about it. But also from a bigger, more like not necessarily philosophical, but not philosophical. Like,
I think you can make the case.
That's fair. That's where I'm like,
with some of the conversations we've had,
it does get philosophical. That's true.
Maybe it's like this.
Maybe
it's like
a
parallel of the Renaissance painters. It's like, whoa.
And I think that's just that's a worthwhile piece of the conversation.
And like, no matter what happens, it's happening to us.
Right.
Like, AI is happening.
Yeah. You said that the other day. You're like, if we're not in the conversation, not we necessarily just being you and I, but like we as people, like if we're not in the conversation, then we're going to be lost.
Yeah. It's happening, like the good and the bad, and there's plenty of bad and there's plenty of good.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I feel like the good part of it is still emerging more.
Right.
Because the bad part of it is so easy to talk about.
Right.
All the many things.
So many.
That you can go look up.
So.
But don't look it up. But like, you know, like look up a New York Times article about it.
Right. So we just wanted to talk about AI.
Mm-hmm.
What we're not going to do
is give you advice about it. Or try and be like, this is the way it is.
This is how it works. Because we loosely know and mostly we don't know.
Yeah. It's so complicated.
Right.
And advanced. Like text that's input into an algorithm and then it comes out as an image is like, it's taken like hundreds of scientists and computer like experimentalists with like a lot. I think they've been working on this for like 10, 15 years. Man. This problem.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago, they were able to make like a 10 pixel by 10 pixel image.
Crazy.
And they were like, oh my gosh, this is going to change everything. And then just last year, it was like, oh crap, you can actually like make a full image that looks pretty photoreal.
Yeah.
And anybody can do it.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing that they did is open. So much of it's open source.
It's open source, which just means that anyone can access it.
Yep. You can download the code.
You can download it.
You can alter the code.
Mm-hmm.
It's like...
None of it is... It's all like open information to the public. None of
unpatented.
None of it is patented. None of it is like proprietary.
Yep. It would be like a car design. Mm-hmm. That's like Ford's like, yeah, anybody can use this.
Right.
And it's like, oh, you mean I can just, except I'm like, imagine if you could just go like grab the car for free. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of the essential. It's the weird part of the digital world. It's not physical.
Yeah.
This stuff could be charged.
Right.
So much money could be charged for this, but instead they took the kind of Benjamin Franklin approach of like, well, if it's good for human society, then we're gonna, and I think
make it available.
And I think there's probably like a research part of it too.
Yeah.
But
so in the smallest nutshell, just for anyone watching who's not acquainted with AI generated art,
text to image,
or who's seeing like a lot of headlines about AI and is like,
stuff
I don't
on Instagram.
know stuff on Instagram, and like, I don't know what that is.
I made this. Good, guys.
You're seeing stuff about Midjourney or DALL-E or
Stable Diffusion,
and you're like, I don't know what any of those are.
It's a new one that came out last week.
Right. Basically, I think maybe even just for this episode, I'm curious about, I'd love to propose this very, very simple definition. Ooh. Or just what we're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Is just that AI generated imagery is, what we're talking about is the process of, you get a text box, you type in terms, whatever you want.
Cow riding a horse on the moon.
And then you wait.
That's pretty funny.
You wait a minute or two.
Yep, depending on the settings.
And you are delivered an image.
Boom.
Of what you typed in.
Yep. And you can add like styles.
You can add style.
Aesthetics.
You can add light.
This famous painter.
You can add how much quality. You can, the settings and the descriptors are infinite.
It's crazy.
And none of it is done by a person.
No. And just like a 30-second explanation.
Yeah.
Basically, there's an AI model that has access to like a massive data set. So it's like 80 terabytes. So imagine just like hundreds of thousands of images, like millions of images on Google.
Millions.
Kind of like a human. That AI has a recollection of all this stuff, so it kind of knows what things look like. It knows what an apple looks like, and a
like
horse
when you
looks
say cow,
like.
I have an idea.
Like,
when you say horse, I have an idea.
Say cow riding horse on the moon, you kind of immediately think of something. You're like, that's a weird image,
right?
But you kind of think of it,
right?
And then if like, say like, you're like, okay, cow riding a horse on the moon, black and white film photography from the 1920s. And then it's like, oh, I have a pretty clear image of that. You're doing the same thing with AI. The AI then, it doesn't actually take an image and alter it. It's not Photoshop.
No.
The AI basically has essentially a white piece of paper. It's like a noise thing. It takes that and through some mad science devilry, it turns all those random pixels into an image.
Yeah.
Through a thing called, and I think it is called Stable Diffusion.
Like the process.
I don't know. It's a diffusion process.
Yeah.
Is because of some techie stuff.
Yeah. And there's a lot of videos. Maybe we'll link. We might link to some of our favorites
in the description.
Yeah. There's a lot of good videos that describe it.
Highly recommend.
Much better than we can.
Yes.
And that's not the point.
Nope. We're just here to talk about the ideas around it.
And so the question I would want to ask is, is AI good or bad, Cadence? That's the worst question I could ask.
Let's cut to the chase. I don't think, okay, yeah, it's a hot topic because...
You don't have to answer that question. That was a loaded question.
Okay, at the moment, currently, with what I know about AI, in the year 2023, it seems like a tool to me.
Yeah.
Like it seems like a computer program or like Siri or like an AirTag. Like it's just
like Google.
Like Google. It just seems like a tool that can either be used to do a lot of good.
Right.
Like a hammer like a hammer can be used to build a house or like hurt someone.
Right.
And it feels to me right now like AI is in this place where it is just like, it's a hammer. It's like you can build some stuff, and it'd be cool to talk about a few people who have made some stuff with it. That's like really like there's some use cases for this tool.
Yeah.
That are like super crazy.
Yeah.
And like really liberating the art form of storytelling and filmmaking.
Yeah.
Which is what makes me excited. And then there's the dark side of it that's like super weird, inappropriate stuff that's being generated. And
just because people have crazy imaginations.
And there's a lot of broken
yeah,
people out there that are It's just rough. So it is. I would think about it like the ultimate Google text box.
Right.
You can use it to like research a college paper, or like to do all this stuff, or like learn how to like fix your car, or like paint on a canvas, like all these things. Or you can use it to look up really weird stuff.
And I think that the only like distinction there, because I would totally agree, it is like the like Google.
It's like if you have zero context for AI image, like text to image, Google search is
kind of the best way to get there.
Best, like the quickest, like it's kind of like that.
But instead of Google is just showing you something that it found that already exists.
Yep.
And AI, like these AI generators are saying this doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah.
But the idea of it exists in different pieces, and I'm going to combine them all together and create something.
I've heard some people say it's like it's like getting a look into the human consciousness.
Yeah.
It's very trippy. Like the stuff that's generated, like stuff that Ryan Booth generated.
Yep.
Awesome filmmaker. You can see him on Instagram and whatnot.
Yep.
Some of the stuff he generated was just wild looking.
Right.
And I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
That actually might have been my first. That might have been my first interaction with AI art, or just AI imagery.
Yeah.
Was seeing that.
There was an artist who does a lot of 3D rendering, filmmaker artist, 3D rendering. I think his name is like Olaf Bloomeris.
Oh yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm butchering his name.
We'll find him.
We'll find him. He was generating stuff, and I didn't know what it. I didn't realize what it was. I was just like, this is the most insane 3D.
Yeah, because he did 3D
stuff
renders
that I've ever seen. Because my only context was he's doing 3D renders, and now all of a sudden I'm seeing these things, and I'm assuming these are 3D renders.
Yep.
But then I started learning their AI generated pieces, and I was like, this is insane. That was last year sometime. Christian Watson dabbled in AI for a little bit.
He did a few. He doesn't think it's good.
Right.
He's pretty like, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's valid. And I mean,
he used it for a little bit, got a feel for it.
And then he said, no.
Right. and that's fair. And I think for me, initially I was like, this is bad, because I'm an artist, and I'm like, no, like you don't get that.
You don't
like,
get to do this.
You don't get to make art. Like computers can't steal my job. And and that's
also
valid.
A lot of people were saying AI art when it's not. I mean, maybe it's AI art, but it's AI image generation. It's not like making. I don't know that.
And that feels like a distinction that I think is worth making. That the term art,
it's such a weird term.
Is like, it's really, there's a lot of context to it. The term artist, like it's really specific. And I think you need to define your terms if you're going to run around using the term AI art.
Even just using the term AI, it's like, what
does that even mean?
Are you thinking about the sentient being in Terminator that's trying to kill the world?
Right.
Or are you thinking about like voice to text?
Right.
Which technically, both those things are in that definition.
Right. I mean, we did, for context, we looked up the definition of AI, artificial intelligence.
Defined by the first convention of
which
AI
was in like the 60s
something?
or something. We'll probably put some facts on the screen.
Yeah.
And just we were really surprised by a definition that isn't like the sentient being from Terminator, or like,
I mean, that's what I thought.
Or HAL from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
But that's like, it was like basically was saying artificial intelligence is any task that a computer is doing instead of a human.
Yeah. Like a calculator.
Right.
Voice to text.
Right.
Like,
translation. Right.
Like Google Duo or whatever that app's called. Like you look at the menu and it translates it for you. That's AI.
Right.
But
so at that point, it's like, okay, well, we've been using artificial intelligence for a long time, which makes me wonder, which I said to you the other day.
Yeah.
I'm like, why does it feel like people have a problem with AI when it's doing stuff that feels like it doesn't affect them or benefit them, but they don't have a problem with AI when it's Google Translate?
Yeah.
They don't feel threatened.
Yep.
That's my.
Oh man, it's like I can't hold anything against the people or the artists who are like, wait, is this gonna like make me make my art style null? Like all those fears,
totally.
I think there's validity to most human emotions. Like they're pointing back to something. Like
absolutely.
And I think even just the like gut response from different people being like, particularly artists.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to people who like actually make images or like paint or like even create images like digitally, there is an immediate like, that's not real. Where's the risk? Where's the work? Where if you can just type it into a box, what's the point?
Right.
Like, and I mean, it's valid.
Mm-hmm.
I can't yeah, I think it kind of, then you can kind of start building some cases when you look at different parts of transition in art form or like different places where technology came in.
Right.
Great example would be when photography became an actual thing that people could do widely back in the like late 1900s into the early 20th. Wait, did I say that right?
Late 1900s into the early 21st century.
20th century. Wait.
21st. Yeah.
I'm thinking like 1880.
Oh, the late 1800s into the early 1900s.
Like the late 1800s.
Yeah.
Photography was like invented.
Yeah.
In the early 1900s, it became more widespread. Like more people could do it, and it made portrait painters, people who would paint portraits of families and different things. The demand for that just disappeared.
Man.
Really fast.
Wow.
Like over 5 or 10 years.
Wow.
Because it was like, wait, why have somebody paint our family when we can just get a photo taken?
Yeah.
It seems pretty obvious now.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, everybody has a photo camera.
Right.
Got it on our phones. We can take so many photos.
Yeah.
But it like completely changed the landscape of painters.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is like, we're like 120 so years later.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's not thousands of people doing portrait painting. Like that's not a career anymore.
Right.
On a wide scale. It is for some people.
Right.
But like the value of like, oh yeah, I had my portrait painted.
Right.
It's like, holy moly. Like that's, dang man, you going bougie. Like that's not, it hasn't decreased the value of the real thing.
Right.
So to speak, like or it hasn't decreased the value of the original art form.
Right.
It's actually only increased the value.
Yeah.
And I think in all this, I'm like, at like the end of my life, when there's all this AI stuff and you might be able to like type in like a movie and literally like an AI just makes a movie for you. Like, I don't know if that's actually going to make the real thing or like the original art form or like the physical thing. Like, I don't know if that's actually gonna devalue it. Yeah. I'm curious if it will work in the opposite fashion. So that's a little, philosophy.
If I could chime in on that, because I kind of, I would agree. I think to an extent, at least that's where I am right now, and I might change my thoughts in a month or a week.
Yeah, because it's changing that fast.
Because it's changing so fast. But when I think about like, even when you said photography, I was thinking about the transition from film to digital.
Yeah, that was
all of a sudden. It's like, it's not fair to say that there's no risk in digital photography because you can see the imagery immediately. The risk is different. Like the risk of film photography, I shoot both, and the risk of film photography is definitely feels like way more tangible. Yeah. However, it still feels like I'm risking something when I capture an image digitally. And it wouldn't be fair to say, I don't think it would be fair to say that the only true art form is film photography. Yeah. In the same way that it's not fair to say the only real art form is portraiture painting. Yep.
But to look back at history, that's what people said during those transitional periods. Right. It was like, there was very spicy comments about digital photography and that it was like a robbery of the art form and all this stuff. And now it's like, dude.
There might
be like 9 trillion photos taken a year, but there's still only like a couple hundred that are actually good.
Yeah, because that's the thing is like just because you can generate work doesn't mean that the work is good.
Yeah.
Which is something that, I mean, I know as an artist when I look back at my photography, when I look back at the videos that I made, when I think about the like however many like millions of hours of YouTube content are uploaded every day.
Oh man, it's like 300 hours a minute.
300 hours a minute. But that doesn't mean like, that it's all like, that doesn't mean that all of those are good films.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So I think that's the same thing goes for AI imagery. It's like a lot of, you can generate, 100,000 images a day, but that doesn't mean that like 100,000 of those images are worthy of being in a museum.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why the art term feels so strange to me.
And then it's like, it's just a digital image.
Right.
It's not like a physical thing.
Right.
So, which I feel like this is a great segue into talking about a really cool thing. Well,
it's kind of what helped us kick off our interest in this.
Yeah. I feel like this is a great segue into talking about this thing because, where's my thought? I had fun with it. It was great. Sorry. Oh yeah. I think this is a great segue into talking about this thing because, the tool, right now it feels like a tool. And it's like, what is it going to be used for? Because right now at the basic level, people are just popping on and making AI images. But like, there's a lot of like, what could this be used for?
Yeah.
And that's where what the Quarter guys made, Anime, Rock, Paper, Scissors, feels like.
Anime, Rock, Paper, Scissors.
Anime, Rock, Paper, Scissors, which is like.
Crazy.
I know, it just sounds like, oh, what a fun YouTube video. And they've done a lot of anime videos,
they have.
Real life, anime in real life.
Yeah.
But this one, they were like, we want to use AI to actually make a realistic looking 1970s style anime film.
Right.
5 minutes.
Yep.
Without actually animating anything.
Yep.
Which is crazy to think because like they're not an animation studio.
Right.
Like that's one of the most out of reach that's one of the most out of reach parts of the industry for indie filmmakers is animation. It's just so difficult.
It's time consuming. It's technically so difficult.
If you want a specific style, you have to have art. Like even like trying to recreate 1970s anime, all these little intricate things that make it what it is. It's like kind of impossible. And even like the film that they made, it's like really close, but it's still not quite 1970. Like there's still some AI jank in it, but
there's definitely still some AI jank.
But man, it mostly works.
I mean, we both watched it. I watched it and I was blown away.
Me too.
I was really pumped. Because it was like, I've been following these guys for a decade.
Yep.
I know that they're really passionate about anime. Some of them, obviously not the whole studio, but
a lot of them.
But then I'm like, this is a story this story would never get made. That's another way.
Now that is a key part. The stuff's going to get made that would never get made.
It's a good idea.
It's a funny idea. Anime, rock, paper, scissors. And they like take it to 11.
Yeah, because that's the other piece is that they're brilliant storytellers. Yep. This isn't Joe Schmo.
No, and they like wrote a script. It's not like AI wrote the script.
Right.
Like they wrote a great script.
Right.
And they had great music composed.
Yep.
And they did great sound design and they did great voice acting.
Yeah.
Like the amount of work that went into this thing.
Right.
Like once you watch the behind the scenes video, which will be linked below.
Yeah. I mean, they put months of work into it.
This is not just, I'm going to type in an AI image, anime, rock, paper, scissors, and then boom. Oh my gosh, I have a film now. No. They use so many tools to get this thing done.
Right. And that's what I think makes it feel like, what if AI image generation is actually just a really helpful tool?
Yep. At least right now in this stage.
Right.
That's what it feels like for me. I mean, gosh, the possibilities. Because another key part of how the AI models work is it's all input based, because it's scanning images and then it's creating a new image from the like memory of those images. So you can build your own data set, basically. Right. So like, say you're an artist and you're like, man, I've been spending hours on Pinterest trying to find something inspirational, but I can't find anything. Okay, I'm going to take these couple dozen pieces I've done and I'm going to put them in my AI model and I'm going to generate just some ideas that I have. Yeah. And it literally, you can train it to do those ideas based on your art style. Right. Crazy. And then it just becomes like the most epic like idea generator. Right. Ever. So, I mean, something I've been thinking about doing, and I'm curious what you would with that. I'm like, does then that person go and recreate that physically? That would be cool. Yeah. I mean, there's so many possibilities. I think it's this thing where it just even like watching the process of Corridor Digital making this film, and like just where they took the Stable Diffusion model, and then they took one guy's mod for it, and then they like modified it themselves, and then like built their own data set, but then like created stuff with that data set, and then put some of that stuff back into the data set. Like, it's just like, whoa, y'all, they literally spent like 2-3 months on this project. And the only reason they were able to do that is because they have a website where you can go subscribe for like exclusive content. And I would recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's support guys. But it's anyway. Awesome that they just said, we're willing to give time to creating this piece of work, to pushing the technology forward, to like trying things out. And I think even like you said earlier, like the question comes up, where's the risk in AI art? And I'm like, well, that is the risk. Yep. An entire production studio giving 2 months of time to making a 5-minute short film that might not even work. Like, that's the risk in it. And it is a different kind of risk than the other anime films that they've made. But oh my gosh, I mean, a perfect example would be Pixar. Right. Toy Story. Right. What's the risk in doing an animated film when you could just do 2D film? Right. Everybody's been doing it. Just get on the Disney bandwagon. Yeah. And they were like, no, we want to use science to make stories. And it's like, what? Why would you do that? And they're like, it's going to be awesome. And then they all blew our minds. Right. And we were all like, oh, okay, I get it now. Right. And created an entire new like medium, 3D animation, which is still being used, you know. And what's like crazy about that too, this is kind of a side tangent, but I'll keep it concise. What's crazy about that is there's been this long run of very like clean 3D, like very photo realistic animated 3D movies. And now you look at like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Yes. And they're going back and saying, wait a minute, there's a lot of magic in those old animated movies. Right. And they're bringing that back into the 3D stuff. Right. And it's like, I mean, that is like maybe my favorite animated film I've ever seen. Yeah. Because of all these different techniques and like just crazy stuff. Like you watch it and you're like, I feel like I'm in a comic book, but I'm also watching Pixar movie, but I'm also like in a Disney movie and a cartoon. Like so much is happening. Yeah. But it does, that's the like, it may be part of the risk to answer that question is dreaming outside of the boxes. Right. And maybe some of the risk is saying, wait a minute, this is a tool that allows us to break a box that's been like 100-year-old box. That's like, well, you can't animate unless you're an animator. And it's like, oh wait, now if you're a cinematographer, or you can, if you have, I mean, they literally used their iPhone and a green screen and did shots on that, and then brought that into their AI model and generated images that they did a bunch of compositing too, but they literally used an iPhone. They didn't even need to use an expensive camera. Yeah. I mean, I'm shooting this on like a $10,000 camera. Right. Not necessarily because YouTube deserves a $10,000 camera, but it's like what we shoot stuff on. And it's like, right. you don't even need that to create this stuff.
Right.
And all their software was free.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't know if I just found this out. All the software that they used, just the AI was free. Yeah. DaVinci Resolve was free. Then, I mean, phones are kind of free at this point because they're everywhere and everybody has one. Yeah. You kind of have to have one now.
It is the barrier of entry for filmmaking has gotten so low.
Yeah.
Even thinking, I mean, and this is kind of awesome to tie it back. The story, like, for me, saving up the money as a kid, trying to buy this $200 camera that felt like it was impossible. Mm-hmm. Like, there's an element of the struggle there that's commendable. But
let's commend 9-year-old Ryan.
9-year-old Ryan, we love you. But now I'm like, oh, 9-year-olds today, like God. the barrier of entry for telling creative stories has gone way down.
Yeah.
Whether you use AI imagery or not, the barrier has gone way down. And that, I feel like, is amazing.
Yeah.
For the future of creatives, for the future of storytellers.
And I think too, like, there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. But there's still, just like with the digital photo example, there's still only a finite amount of good, like, or even great stories that are told each year.
Right.
And like, I mean, I'm thinking about Top Gun Maverick. I'm like, there was only one of those last year.
Right.
And everybody went and saw it, and it was in theaters forever, till Christmas.
Dozens of movies come out.
This is like, but like the one that I remember from last year is that. And I'm like,
yep.
What?
Right.
So I think I'd say all that to make the point of like more tools, more possibilities for like people with great ideas to make really good stories, and all these platforms to be able to share it on. And like, the beauty is like, or just like the possibilities are really opening up in a way that didn't even feel like imaginable because of all this science.
Right. Totally. I think I was looking the other day at the anime rock, paper, scissors, and I was looking through some of the comments. And I was really like, what was
that like?
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
I saw a handful, like in a pretty quick scroll, maybe half a dozen comments of people who are like, I'm an animator and this is devastating. And I saw people that were like, I feel like, I think one person said, I feel like my dream of becoming an anime artist has just been shattered. And I was like, holy,
I guess. I don't know.
I know. I'm like,
their shoes.
I feel
It'd be
like
fun to interview them though.
I know. The part of me that was like, I am so impressed by this video, read those comments and was like, is that valid? And I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it might be.
Yeah.
And also it might
just
not
be like
be.
that specific dream of that. Like, I mean, maybe it could be even compared to like the people who are like, I just wish I was born in 1942.
Right.
And I just wish that I didn't have to deal with, like, I just wish that like life was a little different.
Right.
It's like, man, that's a cool dream, man. But you don't live in that time era.
You don't live in that time era.
You can't be a knight. I'm sorry.
Right.
I don't know. I don't want to like, I'm not like hating on any of those people. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. We just got to talk about it. I think that's the thing. It's like, man.
Same. I'm like that.
You got to feel these things, talk about these things. There's no right answers.
Right.
Sort of.
Like the part of me that is, I think that's maybe what I liked about it the most is like, I immediately, when I read those comments, I immediately felt the tension of what we're living in. And I'm like,
good story.
This is good.
Yeah.
This is appropriate for me to feel the tension because the world is changing.
Yeah.
And I don't, right now, I'm not affected by a film studio in LA making an anime film without being anime artists.
Yep.
That doesn't affect me directly.
No.
But I do want to feel like, I want to be able to feel the emotion or identify with the emotion for the people that do feel that, because it is going to affect me in some way.
We're in a transition period.
We're in a transition period.
Just like the original Star Wars used stop motion,
right?
And then CGI came, and stop motion's like, well,
we're irrelevant.
We're done,
right?
And it's like, it is sad. I mean, I mean, there's something special about stop motion, like,
which is why stop motion films are still being made.
Okay, yeah, that's another interesting dimension to this whole thing.
I know.
It's like stop motion was trying to look real,
right?
But then something came along, that CGI came along, that made making things look real way easier.
Yeah.
And now we're back to stop motion, because like, wait a minute, stop motion in itself is really cool.
Yeah.
It's still a magic trick.
Yep.
Like, to know that was an inanimate object and now it's moving.
Right.
And you can feel it.
Right. I still haven't watched Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio yet.
I really want to.
But I really want to.
It'd be fun to watch that and talk about it.
I know, it would be. Maybe we will. Maybe that's episode 2.
Ooh.
I think, and this might be, maybe this is where we land.
Yeah.
Because
this is a good place to land.
What I've been feeling with even the conversations we've been having about AI, and why I'm like, we should start talking about this. I feel excitement to start talking about this, is because I feel like even with the new tools, in the same point that you're making about stop motion, the original like physical art forms, I don't think they're gonna go away. Like, it's what this does not reduce the need for the human soul to create physical work.
Yes.
Like, and I think that's something you and I can both speak to, because we are artists that do physical work.
And it's something that here at the Cage Spurs we value highly.
Such a high value for the process.
We have a pottery department that, like, they're hand-thrown pottery. We've got a leather
studio, right?
Sewing books.
Right.
We've got a printmaking studio that's making like prints
and
by hand.
Like, if I can, I remember when I did our school, our 2-month discipleship school.
This is a great example. Yeah.
And I came home and I had spent 2 months making this piece with printmaking.
It's on the wall back there, actually.
It's literally on the wall in the art barn. But printmaking is the process of like taking a block of linoleum and using a knife and carving into the linoleum, and then rolling ink over it and flipping it around and pressing it on paper like a giant stamp, flipping it back over, carving it again, rolling a different color over it, putting it on again. Maybe we'll show some footage of this or whatever.
Got some great B-roll.
But like, and then you create this image that is one of a kind. There are no other images like it.
It can never be made again.
And it can never be made again because you've carved away the previous layers. And that for me, one, I loved the process. Because of what it was doing in my heart. Like, what it was doing for me as an artist to do something so physical. But I remember going home and showing friends, and friends being like, wow, that's so cool. So why didn't you just make it digitally? And me being faced with why didn't I just make it digitally? So now the question would be like, why didn't you just generate it with AI? I'm like, why didn't I? And I think my answer then, and my answer still now, is because of what it did for me. Like you, me as an artist, as the creator of this work. It's not actually for the masses. Like, I didn't make this for what that person is going to feel. I made this for the journey that I went on to get there. And I don't know if that's the same, if that's the motivation for every artist. But that's something for me that I'm like, that is a need of the human spirit.
Man, I got two quotes.
Love it.
From two people, two different books. And first book is Shopcraft is Soulcraft. Great book, a recommendation from Van Neistat, Spirited Man. Highly recommend that channel. Go check it out. And in this book, he talks about old motorcycles. Like old motorcycles that you had to pump the oil into the engine while you were riding it. But if you pump too much, then you waste oil. But if you don't pump enough, then you got to take it to the mechanic shop because the engine burned out. And all this stuff that we don't have to do anymore. And he's like, and I want to be very clear, I don't want to do any of this stuff. I'm a motorcycle mechanic. I don't want to deal with any of this crap. But like, he makes the point that there's a certain maturity that comes when there's a bodily immersion in the thing that you're doing.
Huh.
And I think it parallels really beautifully to this. Like, there's a maturity that only comes in the human soul, in the human condition, when you risk something that like is real.
Yeah.
And I don't think that AI is ever going to take that away.
Right.
Because it is the like, oh, you don't need to do that anymore. You don't need to carve that. Just make it digitally. You don't need to pump the oil in. You got a bike that does it for you. And it's like, well, interesting. Like everything's changing and there's the tension, but like if you want maturity, if you want to grow as a human, which I hope you do, because this life's going to kind of suck if you don't want to. Yeah. I highly recommend it. It's very nice to grow, mature.
Yes.
Your friends will appreciate it. Your family will appreciate it.
Your kids will appreciate it.
Kids will appreciate it. Anyway. But I think that dovetails into something that Rick Rubin said in his book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being, which I've just started. It's amazing.
Wow.
He says, basically, fall in love with the process and not the final product.
Wow.
Because if you fall in love with the process, you'll finish everything you start.
Wow.
And you'll never get bored.
Man.
And it feels it's a little like, what? But I think that's the other part. It's like, if there is a process that you can fall in love with, like that's actually the thing that's going to propel you to keep creating.
Wow.
It's not the final product.
Yeah.
And AI, in a lot of ways, AI generated art is just the final product.
Yeah.
And it's not that satisfying. It's like, okay, cool.
Right.
I generated this thing. But if it's like, if that can be used to go and make something that then requires a process.
And risk. And I think struggle.
I mean, I just feel lucky.
Yeah.
Honestly, as a filmmaker, I'm like,
yeah.
Well, dang, if it's good to be alive. Look at all these crazy tools. I can make an animated film. I don't know how to animate. I don't even really know much about anime. Like, right. But like the idea that that this process that I love so much, which is filmmaking, which is storytelling, which, I mean, another podcast we could do is how everything is storytelling. But anyway, I digress. I feel the like, wow, I love this process, and I'm in it for the process, and I'm in it for the relationships. Yeah, and that's also why I got into filmmaking, is because the people. Yeah, like me and you, our friendship, our relationship has a lot of it's been built off the tension of collaboration. Yeah, and making things, and that's also another podcast, or episode or whatever. I think to land that point, just being like, the thing that I see in AI is that it's creating new possibilities to practice the process that I love so much, which is storytelling, and using different mediums to do that. Yep. And if this thing inspires me to create more stuff, then I'm like, man, I don't see where this is in itself bad. It just seems like a tool. Again, it's like, it has dual purpose. It can be used for beauty or harm. Sure. And I mean, there is a reality. It's going to take people's jobs away. Right. And I'm like, it might take mine away one day. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to say like, come on, harden up, get over it. Yeah. Like, it just all feels so nuanced, and it's just not like, it's not black and white. It's just not black and white. I think every evolution of technology costs people jobs. Yeah. And people adapt. People adapt. Like, that's the thing about, we're still alive. That's the thing about humankind, is we adapt. We change. We find new art forms. We do things that AI can't do. Yeah. Whether it's for now or for always, like, we do things that AI can't do. And I think that I would agree with that like the tools and the endless possibilities does feel really exciting at the moment. And also I want to stay centered in the reality that, like, I still need the physical like personally, moment as well. I mean, as simple as like,
we have speech recognition technology, and yet we still carry around
my journal. Yeah, you've got your journal here on the table
to write down things.
Yeah,
because we need to be connected to the physical.
It's in our biology. Like there's stuff in your mind that gets activated when you write.
Yeah. And so I think that
even versus typing,
like AI, like, is it going to take people's jobs away? Maybe. Is that sad? Yes. Like, are we hoping to stay in the tension of that?
Is transition and change always a mixed bag of feelings?
Yes. But there is always going to be a benefit for the human soul to go on the journey of creating something physically, to take the risk, to do the struggle. And there's, I think along with that, there's, if you can stay in a place of like maybe a little bit of cheeky optimism. Yeah.
It is really cool that we're in a cultural humankind moment where you can be a part of the cutting edge.
That's true.
I heard Nico say it on the podcast. He's like, it was in the tutorial. He's like, so there's no one really, there's no upper room. There's no expert on this. Like if you're making this, if you're like he was like, we're the first people to do this. If you're making this, you are on the cutting edge. So if you, when you talk to other people in this space, they're going to be so warm and excited to help you because you're there. Like,
wow. You're at the table.
You're at the table of like, whoa, this thing's crazy.
Yeah.
But what do we do with it?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have some ideas?
Yeah.
And I think the last little thing that he said that I was like, oh, that's a cool thing to chew on and think about, is he made the case that's like, maybe it's like writing a book. It's like writing and printing books is basically free. Like it does not cost that much. And there's so many books out there. Yeah. But there's still only a couple dozen good ones. Like it still takes so much work and so much risk to tell a good story. Wow. That like resonates with people, that has good ideas and good themes and good roots, like, and good, like all these different things. That's like, are we just, at least in the filmmaking sphere, just getting closer and closer to it being more possible for people to write and have more access, like different people to be able to write this stuff. Yeah. So that's kind of one thing. It's like, interesting to chew on in all of this and compare against all the other thoughts and stuff. Yeah. But
I love it, man.
Me too.
I feel like we landed.
I think we did. I feel like maybe the last thing we'd say, it's like, we're staying in the tension and we hope you can stay in the tension too. Yeah. And we don't consider ourselves experts.
We don't. We do consider ourselves curious.
Yes, we do.
I think even no idea who's going to watch this or see this, but like, we would love to hear what your thoughts are.
Questions, thoughts you have, spicy or not spicy. I don't know.
I mean, heck, if any of the people that commented in the anime rock paper scissors,
dude, come on over,
want to have a conversation, we would legitimately love to hear what you think.
Comment below.
I feel the place where I'm like, I just want to be in the conversation.
Me too.
And I want to know how people are being affected positively and negatively. Yeah. And
get into those details, get into that good convo.
Yeah. We hope to have more conversations like this about AI, about other things.
Yeah, AI is not the only thing. Right. Storytelling, collaboration.
We hope to continue the conversation. So feel free to follow along if you'd like. Yeah. And we'll link. It's going to be a long list of links in the description, but we'll pop in all the links of everything that made it.
Quite a bit of work for our future selves.
Right. Everything that made it in. We can see if AI wants to edit this one. All right.
Cheers. I don't know if I like that.
I don't know if that's the ending.